But
Yeah,
first
yeah.
things first.
You gotta update some things. That's all.
Yeah, he's got to update some things.
That's
First
all.
things first, man. Conway and Funkmaster Flex was going at it. And it started off with Kanye making a post. I'm not Kanye. Conway the Machine, excuse me. Hopefully I didn't say Kanye twice. Conway the Machine made a post. I think it was Instagram Live, but he was just talking about the fact that Funk Flex needs to be replaced, basically, about some younger energy because they're not playing, certain records. And, basically they get no burn on Hot 97 like that. Funk Flex responded. Man, Funk Flex responded a few times, but this is one of the more notable ones. Flex responded, says, Conway, ha ha ha. So, let's begin. You're managed by Rock Nation, Jay-Z, signed by Shady Records, Eminem, distributed by Interscope Records, a major label. You and your team have had features from Jay-Z, Eminem, Lil Wayne, J. Cole, Jadakiss, Travis Scott, French Montana, and more. Wasn't you on Kanye's Donda album? I'm gonna give you advice Paul Rosenberg should have gave you. You're a 40 plus bar rapper. Sorry, lyricist, that had every resource possible. They say sorry, lyricist that had every resource possible. If you're not happy with your career as of today, with all those cosigns, think you've peaked, my guy? What do you think? You're only going to take this as disrespect because truth might be a bit much for you. Signed Grandpa Wheelchair Bandit, Warm Milk General. I might need a podcast. What do y'all think? Let me get this super chat real quick. Nine plus says J Electronica should be higher based off of skills, but lack of catalog, guys. Those things matter. Okay.
Hold on. But I have Jay Electronica significantly higher because his bar level has not declined and he has actually done some output in
He's
the
done
four
a
years
lot
since
more
you.
work than when I originally wrote this.
Mike,
Yeah.
it's the only work he's done. He's done all the work since you made the list. What do you
Right.
mean? There's Exhibit C,
Yeah.
the original Shiny Suit Theory, and then there's the work that's been done
Then
since
there's
you made
like
this list.
the Ghost of Christopher Wallace, stuff like that. Okay.
Free Cutter was a great.
Okay, what are your thoughts on this whole Conway the Machine and Funk Flex situation?
From what side and from what perspective? Because there's a
I
lot.
mean, from where do you want to start? I mean, you could start from Conway's side since he started the dialogue.
Okay, so sometimes it's not what you do, it's how you do it. And so some of the stuff I agree with, some of the stuff I do not agree with. He did another statement. I don't know if it was today or yesterday, but he made another statement.
Do you have it, or I'll look it up while you're talking?
Yeah, he was talking for about 9 minutes.
Okay.
And so he talked about a couple of things, but I want to address some perspective as well that I kind of shared with you. First of all, what he really said about the DJs is kind of what I said needs to happen with the people at the award shows, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
like I told you, it's like, not any disrespectfully, find different jobs for these people who have gotten older. You know what I mean? Find executive level positions or new branches or divisions or new positions for these people. Or
Why
give them a
though?
very nice severance package and send them about their way because when
I
you're in
disagree with
certain
that.
no, listen to what I'm saying.
Okay.
And it's only from this perspective. When you are in the entertainment business, like no, youth matters, and not just in an age sense, but in a energy and in a breaking new ground kind of sense. It matters. You don't see 50-year-olds breaking new ground into stuff in the entertainment business.
Let me
It
play
just,
devil's advocate real quick, and I'm gonna let you finish.
yeah, go
Let's
ahead.
just say hypothetically, they did get a 25-year-old in Flex's spot. Do you think Conway has a better chance of getting records played by that guy or Flex?
Yes,
Really?
yes, by that guy. And I'm going to tell you why. Because here's here's where Flex said a lot of things that were correct. But Flex, forget something. Well, you used to be that guy, and the reason that you got that job was because you were that guy. Like Mike, he didn't always have this job. He was a guy that broke records and kept his ear to the street.
He's a
With
very good
lyricists,
DJ too.
hold
A
on. You
scratching
know the
DJ.
You know, the first time I heard a guy called that was still going by literally the name Big Punisher, not Big Pun, but by going by Big
Yeah.
Punisher. You know, the first time I heard Big Punisher rap, you know, one of the greatest lyricists who ever rapped,
But that was the
Flex.
climate, Coop. I think what we're getting
No, no, listen to what I'm saying.
confused.
No. Listen to what I'm saying, though. But listen to how long ago that was. Okay. Part of why he got that position. What I'm saying is okay, here's what I'm trying to
Flex has
say.
been in
Like,
position for a minute.
that's what I'm saying. Being in this
Angie
position,
used to
no,
intern for him.
this position needs a timestamp, like being a senator or a mayor or a president. You feel me? Because like getting new blood is vital, so the game doesn't get corrupted by people who are like he's so comfortable saying and doing anything. I'm not saying he's wrong for what he's saying. I'm saying the way that the whole process and the climate of it works. Like these dudes got it cushy, is what Conway is really
I,
saying. Like,
I
and I,
can't I can't
I mean,
co-sign
you're not letting me
Conway.
finish anything
No,
though.
I'm sorry. I was just gonna say I can't co-sign Conway coming for Flex's job.
No, I'm not
I'm sorry.
co-signing it. I'm
Okay.
not co-signing it. I'm not co-signing it because I'm
Okay.
not really okay. We're going to get to like Conway's side of it. I'm just addressing it from the perspective of it's like, well, let's, you know me, Mike, I'm an evidence guy. And so I look at where Flex is and it's like, well, how did you get there? Well, you got there by being that guy that broke records and lyricists, albeit the climate and the time, because you're
Right, right.
correct about that as well. The climate and the time was built for lyricists. In order to get on Flex shit, you had to be nice. So like boom, 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 bam, because that's how the climate was. Understood. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But what I'm trying to tell you, and I've said this before, well, I don't like the fact that see, here's the thing. When these guys were DJs and they were breaking these records and stuff, that now like moved into these radio positions that they've held for like 20, 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the money was different, Mike.
Yeah.
The money was different. And now putting these guys in these positions is kind of dangerous when they age, because this is about the streets, Mike. And you can't tell me some 50-something-year-old DJ who hasn't really broke a new artist literally like this century is like connected to what's mattered in this culture properly.
Is that what
Like
Hot
that's
97 is for? Like, is that what Hot 97's current objective is? Is to break budding New York artists?
no, but that is still the purpose of the DJ. And so it's like, well, what kind of DJ are you? Because here's the thing, there are young DJs at radio stations that are doing that shit. And that's what Conway is saying. And that is more how this organic process is supposed to go. But what has happened is because an influx of money is coming to this business in the span of the last 30 years, well, these DJs have just sat in this position where really they're supposed to move on and let somebody else have it and move on to other things. It's too comfortable. It's too safe. Everybody's too comfortable and too safe. When things are too comfortable and too safe, you really know what gets affected overall is the quality of the
Wow.
music. Well, we've already seen that.
Let me get to the super chat.
Go
Oh, go ahead.
ahead.
I'm going to get to this real quick. I'll let you finish. Nas the Goat says, Mike, the fact that you wrote this list 4 years ago and left out one of the hottest Southern rappers off, which is Future, is very problematic. I'll get to that too. And it's very hard for me to gauge Future. I've always
Doesn't
said,
consider Future to be a rapper.
yeah, it's hard. J. Cole, not J. Cole, Jay Short with the super chat says, Flex gave Conway the same energy Griselda gave A2HH. Griselda got big timed. Not a Flex fan, but I like what he did. Sorry, not sorry. That's another point that we can get to, and we could talk about that. Man
No,
Dan with the
that's
super chat says, Flex Vex is a clown. He been out of touch with New York. All he does is play Southern artists, misrepresent the culture, and the Pete Rock disrespect is ridiculous. We're going to get to that too. Melvin Wright says, no Slim Thug. I should have Slim Thug on the list. Dante
nah.
Smith says, but radio is not as important anymore. Rappers used to need Flex to put them on. That isn't the case now. Y'all said a lot of great things. Go ahead, Coop.
No, they are saying a lot of great things, and all of those things are valid. Okay, so this is one of those things where everybody in the room can be right about something and wrong about something. And I think that's really what's going on. Like Flex is right about some things and wrong about some things, and so is Conway. And that's really what's going on. And that's what I mean. There's a lot to unpack. And
Yeah.
so the system, institutionally, how he's set up, and the way that these guys freely disperse their opinions now. Conway, when he did his follow-up, talked about his premise was not for radio play or placement on Hot 97.
Okay.
He literally said that.
What
he
was
said,
his, what
he
did
said,
he say?
listen, this is exactly what he said. He brought up how they say things like on other people's platforms, how they don't fuck with Griselda like that. And how because they have such a national following because of who they are as DJs, that those opinions hurt the brand. And part of the reason why he said that he did the follow-up video too. See, this is why he's upset. He's saying these dudes are really talking in circles and talking on platforms. And like I told you, I was like, what if they're being typecast? And I think Conway's speaking to being typecast and stereotype. And so then we're going to get into the how an owner looks at that. But he brought up how critics and pundits looked at Lamar Jackson before the NFL draft. And when he said that, I was like, that's the way Conway should have approached it the first time. You know what I mean? Like his follow-up was way, way better than the beginning, because when he brought up the Lamar Jackson point, now he's speaking to being like stereotyped and typecast as something by people who are responsible for helping to control the narrative.
All right. This is what I'll say, and I didn't even hear him say that, and that's really
This is the follow-up. This isn't the original one. I just caught this in the last hour.
No, I was going to say, because I was talking to somebody earlier about some of the similar things, and I think it was somebody on my Facebook that posted about, the Griselda raps about guns, drugs, and this, that, and third. And I was like, well, this current Conway album is nothing like that. But for a lot of people, they're like, well, the tone has already been set. So it's a little bit too late to change those spots now and worry about getting typecasted now. You know what I mean? Like, you've kind of set the foundation. It's not fair, but it is what it is. Like, for a lot of people, that's what they identify the Griselda sound and the Griselda culture with, regardless of what he just put out. Because originally, when he said some of these things, I just immediately went to the Jill Scott record, because you and I were just talking about how big that record possibly would have been in like the 106 and Park days, because we were randomly talking about when BET used to play music videos. So we were like, that would have actually really pushed that record. And I believe that they feel like that record should be getting radio play. I think it should. And I know he's probably saying they're not doing this to get radio play or whatever, but they do got to feel a way that song doesn't get radio support in New York. I mean, it should.
Okay, so let's unpack a couple things.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, I think about stuff like this. He's not totally wrong, because I'm looking at somebody like Ray and Ghost that never got the placements that they should have got. It's like, Ray and Ghost, if they get the placements that like Nas, Big, and Jay get, you know what I mean?
Okay, but we gotta dissect that though. Why didn't they?
But because they were like, well, first of all, the abstract wordplay.
Mm-hmm. The music they made.
The abstract wordplay is definitely like a major component factor in that. But their vernacular was more street and New York oriented even than those guys. It still came off as like too street.
Because even if we look at Jay, I think he's a great litmus test for this, because he started talking a certain way, didn't get that mainstream attention until he started changing up his lyrical delivery, and then got it.
Well, you want to know what I really thought about? It's like when I thought about this, and I thought about Chanel Pearls with Jill Scott, and I was thinking to myself, if Method Man does this record gets a whole nother look and a whole nother feeling. A whole nother vibe. And that's what Conway's talking about, because Conway's looking at it. It's like, no. That's a grimy nigga from Wu-Tang Clan. He just made I'll Be There For You one time and did some guest appearances like any other rapper can do. And so he feels like he's being typecast and stereotyped because they have been. And is it unfair? Well, if he's capable of making a song like Chanel Pearls, it is unfair, because we didn't keep Method Man in that box when he made records like that. We let him step outside of that box and flourish. And so also, too, he's an owner now. Think about what an owner works for their artists.
Right.
And so if the owner's being typecast as a certain type of artist, what type of look is his artist about to receive?
Exactly.
How is Love, like you've heard Love, I've heard Love. We think she has Lauryn Hill type of capability with versatility and content making ability. How is she going to become that if she is going to be typecast because of who he is typecast as?
No, great points.
And so he's not, like I said, I don't like how he did it, but he had some insightful things. You have to look past, sometimes you just have to look past what people are saying and understand where people are coming from. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, definitely.
Because here's what I thought about. Well, he's the owner now, but he's been on the artist side. And look at how long it took for him and Westside and Benny to get here.
One of the records that came to mind too, and before I lose this train of thought, the record with him and Amani Caesar on From a King to a God that was produced by Murder Beats, there's no reason that shouldn't have got any radio play.
It's not. It's because it was Conway, though.
If it's every, like, if we want to talk about sonically, if it's every, I guess, what do they call it now? Radio cycle. If it's all of their players, it's in there.
Look, it's got a great up tempo beat that you can play in a variety of clubs.
From a producer that's all over the radio.
The producer's all over radio. There's a beautiful woman on there who actually is talented as well and that can rap. The bar work on there is coming from one of the best lyricists in the game. The hook is dope. It's not missing anything.
No, it's not. Mike H.
Neither is Chanel Pearls. And so Conway's sitting back thinking, it's like, well, like Meth made I'll Be There For You to get treated a certain type of way, to be elevated to a certain type of status. What am I making this record for if it's going unrecognized? And that's what I was telling you about him being concerned about his legacy, which isn't totally wrong, because it's like this. It's like, well, it's real easy for history to miss shit and not note things properly. I think we've been finding that out since we've been doing this show. Yeah. He just wants his history to be documented properly. And so what's really happening is he's getting documented is that 40-something bar heavy rapper who got shot.
I want to talk about that comment too.
We need to talk about that.
Mike H with the super chat says, no love for Fat Pat, R.I.P. Top drops 25 lighters. I love those records. Yeah, I need to. We'll talk about it. LP with the super chat says,
everybody's not gonna make it.
Everybody not gonna make it. LP with the super chat says Griselda makes low common denominator music. No amount of cosigns will get them past a certain point. That sound has never been overly popular. All right, there's a few things I do want to talk about, and man, it's just so much going on this topic. But what I want to go to before we get away from it is where and when and why did New York radio stop pushing the New York sound? And I don't think that Flex is responsible for that per se. And to go all the way back a little bit, I don't think Flex is the person. All right, you can't really judge Flex by what he does on the radio. You can judge him by what he does in the clubs, because he doesn't control what gets played on the radio, and that's just real.
It's not Flex. It's the way the institution started being set up to run, where people were being more concerned with fat. And like, this is what I keep on trying to say. And I've told you this too behind the scenes, man, it'd be hard for these DJs when they be running into, like, imagine having to sit down in like 98 with a Jay or a Nas for an interview, and you're like the biggest DJ in town, but this dude comes in and like he's literally wearing about like 5 to 7 years worth of your salary, like on his neck and on his wrist. And things financially start changing for you, that you have the opportunity, if you keep this job and move through certain avenues legally and viably, to acquire something that resembles that type of wealth. Well, you're going to be more concerned with that than breaking the street records then.
Yeah. You got to keep your
job.
What happened. And I think that's what people don't really understand. Flex has a job. You know what I mean? Yeah. Straight up. Just like how, you remember in like the early 2000s or whatever, it didn't matter what kind of rapper you were. You could be a street rapper, whatever. Nigga, you had to have a club single. That was your job to do that. They had to have a first single for you. You didn't want to make that record, but you had to make that record to sell that album. Flex has a job to do, and he plays what
Right.
they tell him to play. And really, if you really want to complain about those things, I think it needs to go further up, is what I'm saying. But I do want to ask the New York people in here, and maybe we can kind of get to where this started. Where do y'all feel like, what song was it that start getting on, let's just say Hot 97 specifically, that wasn't New York and kind of started to dilute the New York sound? Like, what song do you remember Hot 97 playing crazy enough where you were like, this ain't New York? Because I hear a lot of people say it was Lil Jon's Get Low, or it started in those type of
No. It happened
that
around
time
that time.
period.
Well, you see, I have a problem with a few things. First of all, I have a problem with people who continue to espouse these comments about Griselda's rhetoric while they continue to be like Jay-Z, Mobb Deep, and Biggie Small fans. You get what I'm saying? It's like, you can't do that.
But
Like,
they
you don't
gave
get-
us a little bit more diversity when it came to the radio records. I guess that's what someone would say.
No, okay, so let's go to that.
Mm-hmm.
That's what Conway's actually been doing the last few albums.
He has.
Like, literally the last 3 albums. And so get it? When those guys did it, first of all, Mobb Deep didn't do it until like album number 5. All right. So they were like well into their career and already legends before they even tried. All right.
Right.
So let's not make it seem like Mobb Deep was like that.
Well, no, this is the thing I got with Mobb Deep, man. I think Mobb Deep really tried to keep New York hip hop alive. And
They did.
I think that they just weren't getting played. They had to play the game to get played.
Yes.
And you're talking about that 112 record, right?
Yes.
You could tell they didn't want to make that record. I think Mobb Deep tried to keep that. I mean, because listen to Burn. They tried to keep this shit going. New York radio just wasn't rocking with them.
Right. But you can't be a Mobb Deep fan and a Jay-Z fan and a Biggie fan and be like, oh, I don't like how Griselda be talking about the streets and all this drug dealing. It's like, nigga, you were just playing the 10 crack commandments in 41st Side the other day. What the fuck?
But I think that it's the
It's the hypocrisy
it's just
of it
a lot.
all.
You know what I mean? I think that
No, it's the hypocrisy
Okay.
of it, Mike. It's the hypocrisy of it. It's like, you gonna sit up here and be a Mobb Deep fan and enjoy hardcore East Coast hip hop, but say, oh, Griselda don't do nothing but talk about the streets. You're gonna be a Jay-Z and a Biggie fan, where like literally a lot of the rhetoric, especially some of the best rhetoric, is drug dealing rapper rhetoric. And be like, oh, well, I don't like how they always talk about selling weight. It's like, what the fuck is reasonable doubt and all you want about? The best song on Ready to Die is Everyday Struggle. He's talking about his life as a hustler.
Yeah. LP with the super chat says, starting around 06 with NY's beefs and the program director Ebro, it got too political and the South started to pull up numbers on NY dudes wasn't. Pulling numbers in NY dudes wasn't.
So
A lot of people try to bring that to 50 too, because at the end of the day, 50 was doing numbers.
50 was going down.
50 was doing more numbers than anybody down here.
Period.
LP says Flex was praising Harlow, shaking my head. He don't get a pass. Jay Short with the
listen.
super chat says Nas and Face never really got radio play like that. It's real.
No, that's real. If I Rule the World and Hate Me Now are the only Nas songs I can ever remember getting played on the radio, like to the point that I was like, damn, they playing that record a lot. Like, okay.
Well, here's the other question I have, and I guess the other thing that we do have to address. Why does a person like Conway and that's in a collective like Griselda that is getting so much grassroots support, why does a person that is riding that kind of wave and has the platform he has just really based on getting no play, why does he even care about getting played? And who actually listens to the radio like that in 2022 anyway?
That's what I mean about how this could have been an owner's comment, because I'm going to go back to some of the previous comments that I was kind of bringing up. Well, look at how long it took. I mean, So West Side's the brains of the original Griselda operation. So let's look at West Side. Like West Side's the boss, and his artists are Benny and Conway. Those are two great artists to have to start your company off with, especially the fact that you're actually a pretty dope rapper yourself and actually the best one at putting together projects. That's a nice little trio to start off with to walk through these hip hop doors and get shit cracking on any level, okay? Blessed to have that type of caliber of MC walking in the door. This is no disrespect to Love or Jay Skis or or Armani.
I think they got some dope artists too.
No, they do. The only one of them that kind of rings on the level of Benny and Conway, though, is potentially Stove. Maybe Love and Armani when they round into whatever they're going to become, but Stove is the only one that like strikes you at that level. Like, whoa, who is that?
I think Jay Skis too.
Did. No, the way Benny and Conway did at that level, it's like, no, that motherfucker might have next, like, period. You feel me?
Yeah.
Like, Benny and Conway gave you joints and gave you verses, like Conway's verse on The Cow, Benny's verse on Gods Don't Bleed, where it's like, oh no, that nigga might have, like, next, like, period. Stove's the only one that's come up after them that really gives you some of that effect. And that's not to disrespect anybody, because as far as a camp of dope MCs, they have the dopest MC camp in the game. If you take all their collectors and put them together, it's not even a question. MC-wise, they got the best collective. Period. Because they got a few just having Che, Love, and Armani within the framework of some sort of collective, I don't think any collectives had 3 female MCs like that could spit like that, Mike. Do you? Can you think of one?
No, you're right. It's crazy.
That's crazy. No. They got the spitters, they got the hitters, and because they got the spitters and they got the hitters, they're looking at how long it took them to get here, and they're like, I don't want that shit for my artist. I don't want them to have to do this for 4, 5, 6 years just to get to this point, just to not get radio play. They're trying to change things for their artists, maybe.
And with
that's what I would want my boss to do. I would want my boss to go act a fucking fool about paving the way for me if that's what it took for me to get some more motherfucking airplay or airtime or to be looked at differently. He's doing what a good boss is supposed to do.
Well, that's
it's
what
called servant leadership.
No, you're right.
It's called servant leadership. Yeah.
That's what he's supposed to do. Ed with the super chat says, it started when NYMCs started stealing the South style. During the ringtone era, Mims, This Is Why I'm Hot.
This is why I'm hot. There we go.
That's I could go down a whole rabbit hole, and I'm going to do that real quick. Marquez Davis says, I agree with you, Coop, but I'm sure you remember when Biggie was anointed as the next big thing, and he fulfilled that. Everyone knew that Biggie was special. Anything he did, people were going to soak it up. And LP with the super chat says, 50 consolidated the fan base and sales in New York. And he also says that Nas tried to tell everybody in 02, but they fronted. That is the truth. And that is one of my favorite interviews of all time. It's a very inspirational interview. I do want to get to that Southern comment. Okay, so sonically in the 90s, the NY sound was, would you say, largely based on samples, right?
I mean, hip-hop is based on samples. James Brown, Clyde Stubblefield.
Of course.
The funky drummer. Clyde Stubblefield is the funky drummer.
Of course he is. But I'm just saying, like, in the 90s, like, the hip-hop, East Coast hip-hop stuff that we were hearing on the radio, that's more sample-based.
Yes.
Even some of our favorite East Coast producers of all time, very heavy on samples. I think, and I've heard this before as well, when the South came through with people like Manny Fresh, Beats by the Pound, they didn't sample too heavy either. Even with the Neptunes when they came in the door, really weren't sampling too heavy either. They just had a price tag out of this world. Lil Jon, no sampling there. The budgets for Southern artists were just, you were able to maximize your budget. You didn't have a sample budget. You didn't have to clear all these samples. And so when they saw that people down south were selling records, specifically Cash Money, in this fashion, they were like, I'm not paying for these sample clearances anymore. Do what these niggas did. You know what I'm saying?
I mean,
and that's why you probably got a lot of East Coast mainstream guys sounding like, as you say, sounding like the South.
So for me, that's actually a Master P thing.
Okay.
Because I feel like Master P, what he did and the way that Master P set up shop, is it he set up shop in a manner, and this is why if anybody should ever sign in, like that mobile conversation, who should you sign to? This guy, because he set up an in-house shop that literally like set it up. We're gonna use who we need to use on the outside as little as possible. As little as possible.
I do think though, I think Master P in one of his missteps, and it happened to Berry Gordy too with HGH. I think that he undervalued Beats by the Pound, and when he didn't give them what they wanted, they were done. And he had the mentality because again he came from the Bay and he had a sound before them. He was like, well, shit, you know what I'm saying? Like, if you guys don't want to rock, I can pick up and still be good. And that wasn't the case because what made No Limit big was that Beats by the Pound collective. And I think that was one of the missteps.
There was 4 of them, correct?
I believe so, yes. Wasn't Moby Dick in that collective? I thought Moby Dick was in that.
4-man collective. Okay. But here's what I'll tell you, and you're right, that is a misstep because it's like, you can, and listen to me, you can fire a producer, you can fire 2, but you can't fire 4 and expect shit to be the same. Ain't nobody ever did that in music history and been the same. So he really, everybody feels himself to the point of thinking, and think about how many people are probably trying to give him tracks, and he's hearing all this stuff from here, and he's thinking it's like, no, it's not the same when you got a chemistry, when you got an energy, when you got to understand it. Sometimes it's not always about the beat; it's about the energy.
That's what his artist was saying. The artist was saying, "Look, this ain't the same anymore," because they've developed a rapport with Beats by the Pound and how they create, and they've already got a rhythm going. And, you don't mess with that rhythm,
No, so, I mean, it was great walking into the studio to do, like, my second album with my cousin. Well, we did an album together. I did half of my first album across the country in Cali. I came back and finished up with him. By the time it was record my second solo joint, he had all my shit ready to go. It was like walking in and it was like, so what you want to do today? It's like, nope, I already got you there where you want to be. I already got you there for this where you want to be. I already got you there for that where you want to be. No. This beat sounds like this. So I already know that you want to do this, this, and this on this song. When you sent me this, I thought this, and this because of this, and this. And it's like, oh shit, nigga, let's go.
Yeah, I had my guy I worked with too, man, Art. It was like, we had our process. And I didn't want to work with anybody new, really. Somebody in the chat said Medicine Men as well. Forgot about them. And another big name that they pointed out that's important in this process is Swiss Beats. He changed a lot of things for New York sound too, because he wasn't sampling like that for the most part. And so, when songs like Rough Riders Anthem do the numbers that it does, and they don't have to clear anything, that changes things.
It does.
From a financial standpoint.
It was about comfort for the artist. It was about the money with not sampling. It was about keeping things in-house. There was a multitude of things that was like going on that kind of led to that. Because here's what happens. If you don't sample, not only do you not have to pay, but you don't have to wait as long. Yep. That's why I'm saying P. That's why I'm saying P.
And you get your publishing too.
Like, no, nigga, like y'all don't sample because if y'all sample, it might take 3 months to clear that. We not waiting 3 months. We got 3 weeks.
Yep. No, you're right. You can go ahead and record that shit, put it out now. Really, you don't have to wait on anything.
Yeah, P sitting in the background like, oh, that's firewall. Like, we dropping that off tomorrow night.
Now, let me ask you another thing. Because I'm pretty sure, and because I don't know if there's anybody in this chat that's in Buffalo, but I'm pretty sure Buffalo Radio supports Griselda and its movement. Do you think that the apprehension at Hot 97 is a Buffalo NYC thing? Possibly.
Conway alluded to that.
Okay.
He did bring up a borough thing, and that's kind of a thing, Mike. Like.
Because I do believe if they were from the Bronx, that you probably wouldn't even be having this issue.
Like, how about this? Yeah. Like, if they were from Staten Island, wouldn't we be talking about them in relationship to Wu-Tang Clan all the time?
Let's just say they were from Brooklyn. Let's just say they were from Brooklyn. Because Joey doesn't seem to have these issues, right?
Did he?
I mean, I think Joey gets play. I mean, again, I don't listen to the radio. I might not be the person to ask for this. Or maybe Joey's just of a generation where he doesn't give a fuck because his generation doesn't listen to the radio anyway.
Yeah, I think that's more what it is.
What do you think about this whole notion of labeling Conway a bar rapper? And it sounded like, from Flex's rhetoric that it kind of had like a negative connotation. And this is from somebody who has a freestyle series on his show.
Well, I mean, this is like a guy that like used to do records that like, Prodigy's rhyming on them, Big Punisher's rhyming on there, right. Raekwon and Ghost. You get what I'm saying? It's like, well, when you're talking about bars and like bar heavy rappers, it's like, that's what I'm saying. It's like, well, he doesn't need to say that because it's like, well, that's how you got to where you are. Bars. Even if that's not what it is now. Those bar heavy rappers and breaking those bar heavy rappers is how your ass got put in that position. And that's what Conway's talking about. It's like, nigga, bar heavy rappers like me put your ass in the game.
Yeah, those mixtapes are classic. I mean, I think that the Fat Joe and Pun back and forth from the Flex, when they were rhyming over ice cream. That came on the other day just randomly, like on one of my playlists or whatever.
No, that's what I'm talking about. That's the first time I heard Pun. I was like, who's the guy rapping with Joey Craig? It's like, that guy can rap his ass off.
Because even the Big Cap in Funk Flex album, you remember that one?
Yeah, with it had the Biggie and Tupac freestyle on there. It had the Rockefeller joint on there.
Yeah, it had
This
Eminem.
Is for my thugs. Sometimes for my ladies, but this is for my thugs. Where my thug niggas, slug niggas, jerk niggas. Yeah.
Eminem, if I get locked up tonight.
On there.
Yeah. It had the one of those remixes was on there. I had that album. Anyway, a lot of bars on there too.
A lot of bars. Bar heavy, and that was the later one. That was the Funk Flex Big Cap. That was like his fourth, because he did 3 by himself, and then he did the Funk Flex and Big Cap. All those shits are bar heavy. He got the Prodigy rapping over the Wu-Tang Clan ain't nothing to fuck with beat. Right. Shook Ones over Wu-Tang Clan ain't nothing to fuck with. What you talking about, bar heavy rappers? That's how we loved you to begin with. That's what I mean. Sometimes you need to say less even when you're right. Like Flex would have been better had he said less, and he would have been totally right in this situation. But he kept running his fucking mouth too, and it's like, well, hold on, back up, because now you're talking too much.
Well, it makes me think.
I'm guilty of it.
It makes me think, though. It makes me think that he separates the guys that he's going to have here freestyling on his show from the guys that are actually going to get played on the show. And, I've always had a problem with that when it came to the BET Cyphers, even when BET used to play music, right? Because they would have guys or females in a cypher whose music they don't even support. And I always thought that was corny because I remember, trying to come up as an artist, anything that I did was to get music played when it came to like radio, media, and all of that. I'm not going to just sit here and freestyle and perform for you as a sideshow and you not looking out on the other end. And so I always felt like the BET Cypher was about that. And when Flex said that, it made me think, okay, well, he has the guys he designates for his freestyle cypher, so he can get views on that, and that doesn't mean you're going to get radio play. Now, we can look at this 2 ways. We can look at it as Flex has control over that part of it, where he doesn't have control over who actually gets played, right? That could be one of the things, but the other part of it is, I think people look at Flex's freestyles on YouTube more than they actually listen to Hot 97. So if you got a chance to rhyme on that, I think that's worth more than radio play on that station. But what you're saying as far as like him looking out for his other artists, that makes sense.
Yeah. He also said something else today, and this was, I thought, his strongest statement, because this was what I like to call one of these industry jabs where Conway has heard things and understand how this goes. He said, niggas is living off of the 90s. We don't need these niggas or to massage their egos. See, that lets you know the game's already been getting played improperly when an artist is saying that now. That's letting you know that the game's been corrupted. When the game's been corrupted on that level, it affects the music. And so Conway's approach is wrong. Some of the things that he's saying is wrong. He might even be the wrong person to say it, you could say. But he's making some valid points. But Flex is making some valid points too. But can I go to something? And I mean, and I have a few more points that I want to make. But you want to know what I thought about
What's that?
when Flex was given the rundown? And this is what I mean. And this could be coming from a personal place because Conway could be feeling this way. When he talked about all those links and all those plugs and all those connects and all those features, I'm going to ask you something, Mike. Just like it's one of those instinct things, because this is kind of how the streets work too. Do you feel like all of these people that have tied themselves to the Griselda have really given Griselda their best shot, or if they just use Griselda, could they give themselves some current street credibility?
Wow. Well, I'm going for B. We almost got like 400 people in this room right now.
Well,
Thumbs up in
we
the
need to
chat.
stop
Thumbs
right
up
there
in the
because
chat. No, I wanna elaborate on that though.
Please.
I think
please
that
do. Yeah,
when we
I want to hear your thoughts on that.
when we look, because you're talking about the Rock Nation situation, we're talking about the Shady Records
Shady.
situation. So it's like, okay, when you look at
the M verse,
yeah, when you
all
look at the situation with Conway and I think even Westside and Shady Records, one would sit back and think like, okay, well, what actually came of this, right? You know, from both sides. Why would they sign a deal like that? And why would, you know, Eminem sign them off of, you know, minimal output? And I say Eminem with Shady Records because that was the record company. I think Rock Nation, they're still working, right? I think we can honestly
with Benny, with Benny, definitely.
I think Conway's still with Rock Nation, right? I could be wrong.
I'm not certain.
Okay, well, let's just say Conway got on that soundtrack where he was on the song with Jay and Jadakiss and, you know, stuff like that, right? So you could say that some of those things come from management, some of the touring that comes from management, but when we look from a record label standpoint, what exactly did M add on the surface to Griselda? Now, I do think from what I see from a fan's perspective and just from a media perspective, I see a lot of Eminem fans knew about Westside and Conway in ways that they wouldn't have known about it before. I will say that. But I do think that there is a part in they didn't really do a lot to propel them further than that. So I do think that getting that credibility and getting a little bit of that buzz that they were getting was a part of it. Maybe not for Rock Nation because they're a management company. It's hard to really tag that on them. They represent a lot of people, you know?
No, this is what I mean about getting somebody's best shot.
Mm-hmm.
When Nas signed to Def Jam, which was technically via through Jay, who was the president of the company at the time, he got a Black Republican verse out of Jay.
Yeah.
That's not a regular Jay-Z verse.
No, it's not. At that time, you weren't going to get a regular Jay-Z verse because if you look at Black Republican, look at the Hustlin' remix, because Rick Ross got a whole bunch of good Jay-Z verses, right? Maybach Music, and then you look at a
bunch of great Jay-Z verses.
You look at the Go Crazy with Jeezy. You know what I'm saying? Like he was really doing what he needed to do to propel his artist. But let's be perfectly honest, and I'm not saying this to cast shade on anything. There's nothing that Eminem really could do on record to help Conway.
No, that's not fair. I do not agree with that.
I mean, because when they did the record together, Eminem changed the beat. People didn't like the record. I liked Conway's part.
So that when you're saying that, that's what Conway's talking about. It's like, what did you do for 50? Because I went to Jay right quick with Black Republican, as opposed to that mail-in that he gave with Kiss and Conway. Like that was a mail-in, and you know it.
Yeah.
There's ain't even no way around it. He knows it was a mail-in too. And that's what I mean. The energy and the love ain't been the same. That's what Conway's talking about. It's like, no, we ain't getting that type of love and energy. He's not getting no patiently waiting or don't push me out of Eminem.
No, that's true.
50 got patient. Hold on.
50 got one of Eminem's best verses.
Those might be the last two all-time great verses M did, and he gave him the 50.
Yeah. Yeah, I will give you that. I wasn't a
The
huge
energy and the love
fan.
is not the same, and that's where Conway's feeling its way. And it's like the fact that everybody thinks that he's just like all the way tripping and not seeing some of this stuff. It's like, well, hold on. I'm like, are you missing like what
No,
Jay like how Jay does for his artist normally, how M does for his artist normally? Like M got Obi Trice to go platinum.
no, you're right. I mean, listen,
D12 went platinum.
even if we're talking
Purple
about,
Pills. He's all front street for Purple Pills for D12 to make sure D12 like gets to where they need to go. And so Conway knows the love and the energy is not the same. And there's proof of that as well. So when Flex is just dropping the information, I'm like, no, 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 no. That's why statistics don't tell the story. You
no,
just
you're right.
drop stats, but you didn't watch the ball game unfold.
You
But
gotta
he's
watch
being
the game.
funny because he watched how the game unfold. That's why people are like when people bring up Allen Iverson's field goal percentage to Russell Westbrook's shooting percentage, it's like Russell Westbrook played with Kevin Durant for 10 years. Shut the fuck up.
Born King with the super chat says, "My bad being off topic. No one mentioned the back of the album pic with the paid in full posse. One of the best album picks I saw as a kid. Real 50 Cent, Killer Ben, and my first time seeing G-Rap. Great show, fellas. 100. Appreciate that, Born King. Yeah, that is an epic album cover or back cover.
So G-Rap is right there. You see that? That's what I'm saying yeah,
Yeah. What I was gonna say, I was gonna piggyback on something that you said. Oh yeah, okay. Patiently waiting and don't push me. I'm not a huge fan of patiently waiting like that, but don't push me is one of M's strongest verses, especially in that period. But I just don't think that in M's defense, he couldn't give Conway a patiently waiting or a don't push me if he wanted to right now.
No, I get that.
You know what I mean?
No, that's fair.
But I do
That's
think
really
that when
fair.
we talk about the large platform that somebody like Eminem has, you can obviously say that he could have done more. You know what I mean? Because he has songs that we've never even heard of that have done like 700 something million streams.
So if we can look from afar and can tell that these, affiliations, what did there is a famous producer that hopped up in our YouTube page to let us know his contributions about a certain album that we just talked about. And he talked about the logos involved. Like, when these logos and these people who are in front of the logos become involved, don't think that the artists don't notice when your energy is not the same. Like these guys have been like around the industry for a while, so they can tell who's sincerely behind them. Even one of the things Conway brought up was that part of the reason why he made the response that you haven't seen yet is about the DJs that were hitting him up. Like, yo, bro, like I play your shit. I play your records. Like, what the fuck? You know what I mean? Like DJs are hitting him up like, that ain't us. He's talking about Peter Rosenberg and Ebro and all these guys in it and talking about how like people have hit him up. And he's like, no, he don't care about the radio play. He's just not trying to kiss nobody's ass because the climate's not set up for that. And listen to this. Did you hear Flex's follow-up, like the radio thing? First of all, he acted like he didn't know his name. He said his name wrong. This is what I mean. Flex is wrong.
Yeah, that's that brand new stuff. You can't. And you know what? And his problem with Sus One, Conway's, was part of that too. Where Sus One's got on Wendy Williams show and act like he didn't know who Conway was.
No, we talked about that. Do you remember when we talked about that?
Yeah, we did talk about that.
Yeah. So this is real.
Cool.
So that's what I'm saying. Stop making it seem like he's imagining that these DJs are behaving this way too. No. They're behaving this way and running their mouth. He brought up how Flex was on Wallow and Gilly's show and said he don't fuck with them like that. He doesn't listen to Griselda like that. He listens to Drake. Listen to what he did. Like, first of all, somebody called them wannabe millionaires.
Yeah. I heard
said, I'm not aware. And then he poked fun at him and compared him to Michael Jackson and Drake. Yeah, Griselda's right there with Michael Jackson and Drake. Yeah. It's like, now you're the lead DJ for Hot 97. This is like, you know what I'm saying?
And then he also said, I'm going to play some Griselda now. He's like, nah, I'm going to play Cardi B featuring Kanye West and Lil Durk. Yeah.
Right.
I want to piggyback on because you sent me this at like 1:30 a.m. or whatever, and we were talking about The Firm last episode, and I didn't know who Chris the Glove was. I went and did my Googles on him immediately after the show because somebody in the comments said that, and Chris the Glove got in the comment section. He said, "LOL." Problems came from Leor, Steve, and all the logos. Plus, we didn't do the sequencing. The singles were released in the wrong order. Shoulder
Did you
shrug.
did you see my response?
I didn't see your response. You sent me the screenshot of just
Yeah, I
that.
sent you the screenshot, and then I went into other people's comments, and I got back to him later. I was like, "Oh, fam," I was like, "We can tell y'all had nothing to do with the sequencing.
Yeah.
Like it's Dr. Dre's the best sequencing. Like you can tell when you can tell when Dr. Dre has executive produced the album
Of
by the
course.
sequencing.
Yeah. I mean, listen to Good Kid, Mad City. Listen to, the
Get Richard
documentary.
I Trying,
Get
the
Richard I
documentary,
Trying. Yeah.
Niggas for Life, Straight Outta Compton, No One Can Do It Better,
Yeah.
Doggy Style, The Chronic. Like, yeah, list goes on and on.
Said the singles were bad, or not bad. Singles were released in the wrong order. I can vouch for that.
I
don't
can
think
believe
Firm
that too.
Biz.
Phone Tap should have been first, probably.
I don't think Firm Biz should have even been on the album. In my opinion,
Absolutely not.
Um,
That's logos.
it's a lot, man. I've never seen that many logos on the back of an album. It's a lot of logos on the back of that album, bro.
Notice he specifically highlighted Leor, Steve, and then logos. As in Leor, that's Def Jam, so that's Foxy, and then Steve, that's Nas. So Foxy and Nas's managers are the problems, and that's coming from Dr. Dre's right hand man at the time on the production tip and behind the scenes
all
of the
right.
album.
So when we talk about Steve, I think that my mind goes to forcing the track master stuff. And I think that could be a big problem, especially when Dr. Dre is at the helm, him and his people. Yeah.
The glove just said it himself. Him and Dre was supposed to pretty much run this ship. It was supposed to sound like
the glove and Dre could have handled this project.
The stuff that they handled is just fine.
Yeah. No, it's real.
They gave us Phone Tap.
Nas the GOAT with the super chat says, Mike, M is dropping a new album. Are you excited? Laughing my ass off. Listen, it's a greatest hits from what I understand. So it's his second greatest hits. I want to quote my man Star, man. Shout out to the Star Report, man. He said, he wasn't talking about this, but he was talking about his time at working at a record label. And when an artist is washed, they say, yo, it's greatest hits time. Eminem has 2 of these.
That's striking.
It is what it is. There's another super chat. Topping that with the super chat, shout out to the people out there in Australia. Conway don't do himself a favor trashing the M fans that Griselda gets, calling them corny rap fans. Hey man, sometimes you gotta tell the truth and not worry about the repercussions.
Like I said, both sides are making valid and astute points. Both of them could have handled and conducted themselves better. Like Conway's follow-up was way better than his intro. Flex's follow-up was way worse than his intro. They both said some right and some wrong things because the disrespect Flex was espousing now, he was almost big boying them like, yeah, I'm too big and too major and too much on Front Street for you niggas to do anything. And I'm going to be honest with you, that's the type of nigga that you really want to see out in the street and slap the shit out of, Mike. Like that's like when a guy does that, like what Flex just did, what I just heard Flex just do, it's like, nah. That's when I really want to like see you and no cameras are around officially.
Well, somebody in the community section when we posted this, they said that, basically, like you said, Flex played them to the left like he was too big.
Yeah.
But they also said in the comments that, Griselda plays A2HH like they're too big.
So can we maybe wrap this up with this?
Go ahead.
We talked about this before. Part of the problem on Conway's side and where he's wrong is that, well, you're looking for love in all the wrong places. These niggas don't love y'all like that. They've shown you niggas that they really don't love you niggas like that. They really use you niggas for the sake of the relationship of keeping their credibility alive. I'm talking about all these DJs. Like a lot of these older cats that are DJs that fuck with them. They fuck with Griselda for the sake of keeping their viability and street credibility alive. They don't love what y'all do like that. They don't fuck with y'all like that. You're looking for love in the wrong place. And if you really want to put them niggas out of business, like he says, or have them replaced, you need to be, and I said this before too, well, you need to be coming on the platforms that do show you niggas the love that you deserve, like according to hip hop and whoever ever else, not just here, that's showing you the love that you deserve. Well, you need to come on those platforms and make those platforms a thing so that the powers that be want to replace those niggas with these niggas.
That's how change
That's
happens.
how that happens. That's what I'm saying. That's how Flex got in this position. Flex got in this position because he could get Prodigy to okay him taking his verse from Shook One's Part 2 and RZA to okay it over the Wu-Tang Clan Ain't Nothing to Fuck With beat. That's literally how he got here, is by people supporting it like that. And if you're not feeling the love, you need to do what them niggas actually did to get themselves literally fat, figuratively, literally, financially, in the scope of business and hip hop music. They made themselves big, literally, off what you do. The artist made them big. Yeah. Go make somebody else big. That is the strength of the artist.
That's what happens. And, you know, and I think I said this in an episode before. Black artists will complain about the fact that MTV wasn't playing black artists at all. They were only playing Michael Jackson and Prince, and they were begrudgingly doing that. It wasn't until BET came along that they were forced to start playing black artists. And that's what happens, man. Like, if you have a problem with how these platforms are operating, elevate the ones that are doing the things that you think they should be doing, that are supporting you, like you said. And then once those are elevated, Hot 97 and whoever else is going to be forced to change, because that's the way.
Right. That's the way that this culture kind of works. And so, you know, might want to stop looking for love in all the wrong places.
Yeah, because you're not going to change them from that aspect. You're only going to change them when they're suffering on all levels. And they're not cool anymore. When they already aren't. Yeah.
Let's look at some guys that they looked up to, the Locks. How the Locks get out of that bad boy contract?
They went to the people.
Got them out of the contract.
Yeah,
the people got them out of that.
Yeah.
Like the streets is especially when you do the type of music and the style of music they do. Shame on you if you ever think that anything other than the streets is really gonna hold you down like that. Them DJs is not gonna hold you down like that. They'll play just enough of your shit to keep their credibility alive, their pockets fat, their relationship strong, and to make sure that they don't lose their job. Niggas behave differently when their livelihood is put in some sort of jeopardy, like the threat of somebody younger, more astute, more energetic, more in tune, especially in this sphere. Mike, it happens in Hollywood every day where they tell an actress, well, you're this age now, so you're officially mom. So we only have, so we have 30 hot girl roles, and then we have 10 mom roles. So your workload just got decreased by a third. I'm sorry, that's what happens when you get old in Hollywood. Good night, old bitch.
Jay Short with the super chat says, I don't think Dr. Dre is as beloved out here in Cali by the streets / hip hop fans like the rest of the country. Think he is, like the rest of the country thinks he is. Hurt his reputation. That's interesting.
That's fascinating.
Jay Short's out there in Cali, by the way, to the people that are in the room.
See, now I'm out in Cali in the early and mid 2000s. The vibe wasn't different because, you know, when I'm out there, how about this? I'm out there around the documentary. So the Eminem show and all that is not old yet. Neither is the Marshall Mathers LP. That stuff's not old yet when I'm in Cali. So
yeah,
I didn't see any of that.
I was gonna piggyback off of something that you said when it came to, I guess, the DJs and being replaced. Right? I truly don't believe if, let's just say hypothetically, Hot 97 replaces Flex with a 25-year-old. Right? That person doesn't have the type of tenure that Flex has. So I think that you have somebody who's even less, that is way less powerful, right? And it is even more of a puppet. And I know I was talking to somebody I used to work with in radio on the executive level. They're having a real tough time in radio. Actually, number one, preparing a lot of these younger guys and women for radio because they don't have any training. Most people who are doing this on a younger level, they just jump on YouTube or whatever, right? They just jump on their own platforms. So they're not accustomed to actually having to go within the confines of how radio works. That's number one. And then number two is just the familiarity, because the number of people who listen to radio is just less than it used to be, right? So it takes so much to get people familiar with a whole new name, and you don't even know if those people are going to stay around. So that's why we're seeing a lot of the DJs from a long time ago staying in position and staying at fort. Even if you look at New York radio, all of these people have been there forever. It's not just Flex. All of them have been there forever.
It's not just Flex. I'm like he
and we
like
can say the same thing for LA, Atlanta,
Flex
Miami, Chicago.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm about to say Flex is just the New York example given. You can go to every major city where hip hop matters. And okay, so let's look at it like this. Okay, hold on.
There's no movement, and it's no movement because young people don't aspire to be on the radio because they didn't grow up listening to the radio. You know what I mean? Because we were just talking about Joey Badass and like how he probably doesn't even give a fuck. He doesn't get spun on Hot 97. It's because he's from a generation that never listened to the radio. So it's like, how are you going to prep somebody for a radio job that doesn't even care about radio?
Okay, what if I were okay, so maybe what I'm saying about, let's say, okay, so maybe replacing the 55-year-old with the 25-year-old is unrealistic. But what do you maybe feel like about replacing the 55-year-old with the credible 40-year-old?
That's
who
possible.
Maybe has some inroads. So,
but in hip hop, you still
no. So listen. So I have something for you. Funk Flex is 53.
Mm-hmm.
Remy Ma is 42. What if I told you Remy Ma would be a better radio host of Hot 97 right now than Funk Flex? She would get more respect. She would be more in tune. She still has the personality. She still has the name and the clout. She has a husband she could get on to bring on and co-host to give a male side and perspective sort of things to keep the show viable, alive, and give it energy and vibrance. You get what I'm saying?
That's possible. And I think that could be the way that radio is kind of moving, because you look at Trick Daddy and Trina down there in Miami. You look at Young Jock here in Atlanta.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, but I'm saying, like, I think that they don't have to do the job of introducing this person to a new audience, and you get all kind of breaks when it comes to the learning curve because people already know you as an artist.
Yeah, and you get relationships literally built in where people know you, and so they're more comfortable pulling up. He makes a very astute. Listen to this. Listen, he didn't pull this from anywhere when he's saying, living off of the 90s, we don't need to massage these niggas' egos. That's not coming from Conway. That's coming from 90s rappers that had to do that shit.
No, it's real. I mean, anybody from that era where radio ruled, you had to massage those egos of people in radio and try to get close to them and to ultimately realize they don't even choose what gets played.
Like, even with something like this, it's like, well, you know what? Funk Flex and Fat Joe are about the same age. Fat Joe's like 2 or 3 years younger than Flex, I think. Like, Fat Joe's like 50, Flex is like 53. Like, it behooves Griselda more to even go up on Fat Joe's live. You get what I'm saying?
Well, let me ask you this, though, and I want to follow up what you said about the Remy thing, right? So, it would have to be somebody in New York. But how does that look when Remy and Flex have a good relationship and he spun her records and she replaces him? And let's just say, because Flex clearly doesn't want to stop doing what he's doing, Flex starts a podcast and talks all his shit.
This is business. This is not personal.
No, I feel you. But I'm saying it's also business too,
so it'd be
and the fact that Flex could go out there.
Switch labels. No, people be switching labels. They be switching females. They be switching jewelry. Like, they be switching everything around, but we can't. You know what I'm saying? Like, no, I don't necessarily.
Well, I think the thing is, the DJs, and I've heard Ebro say this before, the DJs feel like they have a hand in the artist's success. And
but they don't.
I know
anymore.
Ebro said something to the effect of Kanye owes them for helping him blow up. I'm like, okay.
No, you niggas owe Kanye.
What Kanye say when he went?
You niggas owe Kanye.
Kanye went to a radio station one time. Was like, "You're gonna play my music because it's your job."
It's bad when you got me taking up for Kanye. Niggas, oh Kanye, what's wrong with these niggas?
Okay, before we get to the next part of the show, I do want to read what Flex and Pete Rock's back and forth.
Oh,
Did you
God.
see this?
No, I didn't.
Okay, Flex said a whole lot. So he started off.
He's saying too much. That's what I'm saying. Say less, dude. Say less.
He started off with a photo of Pete Rock calling him a clown, right? He said, "Clown alert," right? And so he says, "Hi, coming from a guy who shitted on drill. They from New York, my friend. They fired you over at WBLS and Hot 97 in that order because you lost touch with the music, streets, and the club. Please remember I'm a fan of your music, love every song you ever made, loves listening to you on the radio, and love your bars, Pete Rock. You sit your basement high ass out of touch, mad at the new generation, pal. Your career was over the day you stopped realizing hip-hop can't be dictated. YouTube, Apple, and Spotify dictate the culture. Never needed a petty $2,500 artist throw around to get records played. Radio/clubs keep my accountant busy. You wish I took money. Makes you feel better about your whack songs you made in the last 5 years that I didn't play. Be clear, everything else you ever produced is amazing. I'm funny style to you, or you mad that we the same age and your career went a little, let's say, different than mine? You're right. I laugh like it's a joke. A lot of people like you haven't come to terms. A lot of people like you, haven't come to terms that there's a new style of artist controlling the craft. Mad at the generation at home. He went there and duplicated it. Controlling the craft. Radio doesn't break artists anymore. Radio makes YouTube, Spotify, and Apple artists superstars. They break them first. Get off the drugs and liquor and ask questions. Grown men grind. Losers look at the next man's plate. 7 p.m. Thursday, I will expand upon this topic
Radio
nicely.
doesn't break artists anymore. Radio.
And I want to go to what Pete Rock said. I heard an echo real quick. Pete Rock said, "You don't play real artists no more. You talk shit like you're better than everybody. And I believe all threats with real talent in music were removed by playing out of the way for the new shit to happen. You New York niggas treat this other NY artists who put in work like our careers are over. You stop playing Wu-Tang. You play no Griselda. Nothing. Stop playing a lot of artists. Then you judge motherfuckers and make fun of the fact that you control what you want when you're on air. So much good music out here to be ignored as a black dude treating other black talented people like they're beneath you. You don't make beats or rap, but you shit on artists because you could, and you stop supporting real hip-hop music to cater to whoever you got in their pockets. That's sucker DJ behavior. When I was a DJ on Hot 97 and WBLS, I never fronted on artists in hip-hop not playing their music. I played everybody's shit, even West Coast shit you was fronting on. That's why niggas is so upset, because you shitting on for no reason. Black people not supposed to treat each other like that. But these days, money will make niggas do anything. Always been a funny style dude from day one, only to front on niggas later and run your mouth and playing your whack ass shit. Funk Flex, you you do this in your own city to your own people and be nonchalant about shit, laughing like it's a joke, shaking my head. So that was the...
So that's...
They had a lot to say to each other.
I mean...
What do you have to say about that?
I think Pete Rock said what I was saying.
I want to make sure we don't miss any super chats before we go on to this T-Pain.
It's a damn shame I'm agreeing with Pete Rock. I'm taking up for Kanye and Conway. It's bad.
Jay Short with the super chat
Conway should have framed it so much better, though.
No, I agree. When do you not step down from the throne? You will eventually be removed. Basic history. This is one of those Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers things. And you know what? I'll make it more entertainment based. Jay Leno. When Jay Leno didn't want to step down. Remember that? You
That
can't
was
make
some sucker
somebody
shit
step down.
too.
Hmm?
That was some sucker shit too.
Well, the institution can make you ultimately stand down, but I think the problem is finding a suitable replacement that's actually excited about replacing this person. I think what you said is a very viable option, replacing it with an artist.
Yeah,
But again,
Remy.
this would have to be somebody who's New York, and it would have to be somebody who wants to take that position because let's keep it real. Having to do a job like that when you're out there doing shows or whatever else you got going on, that can kind of cut into your money too. So it have to be the perfect fit.
Yeah, I could see Cardi and Offset doing that down here.
And I don't think they're gonna do radio. They're more
I mean, I'm
TV
just saying
people.
they could if that's what she wanted. You know what I'm saying? It's bigger than that for them. But yeah,
Yeah, I mean Remy's done television too, so she might not want to do the radio thing either.
she's just classically trained, and she's also like, when women have families, sometimes they get to a certain age in a certain place where they prefer to be closer to home to watch their kids do certain things. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's a
So never
consistency thing.
so
Yeah,
never discount that. Never discount that. You know what I'm saying? A woman will be on the run and on the go, but about her kids, be like, oh, my baby's 11. I've been missing this shit. I want to see the rest of it. Boom, radio job.
we got like 450 people in the room. Thumbs up in the chat. Thumbs up in the chat. You
What's
ready
up?
to start talking about this T-Pain and Tupac thing?
I mean, you have any like final thoughts about this? Like, you want to know what it really is too? This is unnecessary. Like, artists that are making the type of East Coast hip hop that Griselda are making shouldn't have issues with New York DJs. End of story.
This is what I will say. I guess this would be my ending thoughts on this topic. I'm not from New York. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia, right? Got people in New York, spent a lot of time in New York. Big fan of New York hip hop. But from what I hear from people in New York, this has been the whole thing with New York hip hop from the jump, not supporting each other. You know what I'm saying? And there's a lot of terrible records that come on our radio stations, or at least came on our radio stations when radio mattered like that. But I can always say Atlanta's always supported its own artists, even when the records were terrible. And I think that lack of support that New York radio has given to New York hip hop, especially in that early 2000s era, it's been tough to come back from. And these are residual effects from it because New York was so dominant in hip hop in the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
Man, when New York radio switched up on them, they never been able to get it back.
No, it hasn't been the same since. I mean, New York radio has a lot to do with a lot of New York hip hop's demise in terms of how they handled the situation.
Because you got to think about it. I mean, when artists were out there cooking and creating what they were creating, the radio station there, that was the ending point. Like they had something to strive for. And when those radio stations change up the sound and you're hearing people who are no longer from your city anymore for the first time ever, probably. You're like, okay, well, the directions change. I need to sound like them to get on this radio station.
But that is part of the radio format getting institutionalized more as the money got bigger that I'm talking about that's problematic. That's not unique unto New York, like you say. No, that's going on in Miami. It's going on in Orlando, Atlanta.
It's
Charlotte.
just unique to New York because it's never happened to them before. You know what I mean? And it's the birthplace.
Also, too, well, sometimes it's not what you do, it's how you do it. Ain't nobody saying this shit out in Big Boy out in LA because he's doing what the fuck he's supposed to do.
Yeah. You know what? I be in LA and they always playing Dre shit. They're always playing the game.
Well, that's
the last time I was out there.
Well, hold on. You're never going to find a time when you're not doing that. That's what I mean about how they be doing what they're supposed to do. It's like, no, you're in California. You ready for this Eazy-E and this Ice Cube and this Dr. Dre and this Snoop and this Tupac and this 40 and this Short and this Game and this Kendrick?
I mean, and I don't even want to just say Cali.
Well, Schoolboy and Kendrick.
Southern Cal does it. The Bay does it. Texas does it. Chicago does it. Atlanta does it. Miami does it. I don't know what went wrong when it comes to, the radio stations up in New York and supporting their artists, but, it's hard to overcome.
in fairness to all those places, Southern Cali is some other shit, man. And I'm gonna keep on saying that it's different.
I feel like the Bay is too, man, because the Bay makes millionaires on an independent level.
No. The Bay is kind of like Southern Cali, but what I'm saying is that Southern Cali has days where the Bay music don't even creep in. The Bay shit, like Southern Cali be creeping in unless something's changed. But it's like, no, I've had days, Mike, where they literally played Easy or Easy related records all day on a radio station. Like that shit happened.
Memphis does that too. Memphis is like, I mean, well, I don't know what Memphis is like
I didn't
now.
even know Easy was related on that many tracks. I didn't know they could do that.
I don't know what Memphis radio is like now, but I know when Memphis was, you know, really in the prime of its, like in the 90s, early 2000s, all they would play is Memphis records. Anybody from the outside, you're not getting no play, especially in the clubs.
Like when I moved to Cali, Mike, they were playing West Side Story on the radio all the time.
Yeah.
Like the game shit. Like there's no video to that. That was never a single. It would just be on the radio like all the time. I'd be like, oh, that's different. Like,
Mr. Mark 66 says, let's keep it a buck. Although an Eminem cosign didn't hurt, the streets broke 50 in the industry. M has never helped progress any artist. Shaking my head. Now, you know what? Y'all know me. I'm not a big Eminem fan. And 50 Cent was moving, and I don't want to discredit anything that 50 was doing when it comes to, you know, the core base that he was developing. But selling that 10 million and all that, man, that's off of that Eminem cosign, man. And you got to understand where Eminem was at during that period. Like, Eminem was like the biggest rapper in the world. He was a pop star, crossover pop star in 2002. And now you got 50, and 50's coming with this heat. So a lot of people who wouldn't have even acknowledged 50 in that way were now taking a listen to this Get Rich or Die Trying. And once you finally heard the album, it was undeniable. But
it's not
to get the motor running, Eminem had a lot to do with that.
I mean, first of all, the Interscope machine is winning big around this time.
Yeah.
Dre and M are coming off of 2001 in Marshall Mathers and then Eminem show, correct?
Yep.
This is them at their zenith.
Yeah.
Especially records wise, selling wise. So
all
it's like, yeah, 50
align,
piggyback
man.
off. I told you, like the video to End the Club, it's not one of the best rap videos ever, but it's one of the most insightful videos ever because of how it starts. It's like, no, they put him into a machine that was working, and you saw what came out of putting him into the machine that it worked. And it's like, no, we're going to get you in shape and have you looking like this for the ladies. It's like they gave him the whole kit.
You got the biggest New York rapper on the streets, right? On the street level. Boom. That's New York. You got Eminem from the Midwest. Got that. And then you got Dre from the West Coast. All these things coming together. And not to mention, 50 was kind of doing some little Southern slang on the album and stuff. So boom, you get a little bit of that too.
Right.
This was Voltron, man.
He's talking Southern, actually. And Interscope is pushing it. And Interscope and Jimmy Iovine is pushing it.
Yeah.
Like, when has a rapper ever been set up for success like that?
That album was Captain Planet, man. Ethan Hill with the super chat says the Outlaws were on a diamond album with Tupac and never went platinum on their own. Nor did Nate Dogg, despite his work with Snoop and Dre.
What diamond album were they on?
They say you can't pull all this on M and Griselda.
What diamond album are they talking about? All Eyes on Me only sold 5 million, and that was worldwide. That's halfway to diamond.
Might be the
Is it diamond now? I don't be counting that shit to be happening like 15 years later. Like, I count what happens within like 2 or 3 years of you doing this shit, right? You know what I'm saying? It's like, what'd you sell that year? What'd you sell the year after? And then we'll go one more year after that. That's what your record sales.
Well, yeah, because the Outlaws, you can only count when the Outlaws dropped an album, right? Like what those albums did when they dropped the album.
Right. It's like I remember people saying it's like, no. Thriller had moved 36 million units like within 18 months. No. Purple Rain moved 19 million units within 18 months. Not like this 20, 30-year accumulation where the numbers start changing, it gets re-released, digitized, the streams and the singles are different. It's like, no. What the fuck you do the first 2-3 years the album is out?
Ethan Hill with the super chat says, M let Conway put out 100 mixtapes for him to eat. I think I saw a super chat from 007. Yeah, 007 said, he said, Peace Kings. Speaking of 50, for clarification, did the supreme beef off the ghetto Quran come before the beef with Ja Rule or after? I feel like it was after. Also, did y'all check out the Supreme Team documentary? I still need to get to that.
I've seen it.
How'd you like it?
It was excellent, actually. If you're a hip hop fan, just early on, Nas is interviewing LL Cool J, and it's like if you're a hip hop fan, you're just like Nas is interviewing LL Cool J, like that's so fucking big.
That's awesome.
Like Nas is literally like in fan mode. You don't really see him like that, where it's like he's like, you know, you have to understand these guys are still regular people too. So like him getting to talk to LL about some Queen shit, no, that's big to Nas.
We're all hip hop fans.
We're all hip hop fans, even Nas. That's what I'm saying. So like, yeah, there are some beautiful moments. You want to know what? It's kind of funny because we're talking about Conway and Griselda and the rhetoric. The Supreme Team documentary and LL's explanation of it has somebody that's from Farmers. You know what I mean? Like, is explaining his bike ride to go. Like, Mike, he's there for like Prince's birthday party that they have on camera. Like, they have footage of LL in the crowd. Like, people have to understand that the Dope Boys were the stars and the rappers were the guys that they wanted to be like the Dope Boys. It's like if the rappers got successful, they could be like Supreme in them. And nobody really explained it intelligently and articulately with the depth that LL did. And that's why people need to listen to it. No, you need to hear LL speak from a perspective about how those guys have a place. And it's still an important place in hip hop culture without it being as compromising and problematic as people say. This is L talking about it coming from Queens as a 15-year-old when it's going down. You know what I mean?
Hip hop's first solo superstar.
That's hip hop's first solo superstar, and he's telling you why he looks up to these guys and how important they are. So, you know, as much as people don't like it, that's part of this culture. And L is kind of speaking to how, well, no, there's a place for that in this culture because it's real.
Ethan Hill with the super chat says it's diamond because 5 million was counted twice. He's talking about All Eyes on Me. Jay Short with the super chat says NY lost its producers or past their prime. Producers give a region a sound. Pete Rock, Manny, Dre, Lil Jon, Kanye, etc. If your producers ain't hitting, I don't care how good you are as a rapper. Again, I think those samples not being cleared was a problem in New York.
So hold on.
Combination of things. Shout out to everybody in the room. We got like 400 people in here. Thumbs up in the chat and, you know, subscribe to the page as well. Yeah.
Look, buy the yearbook on Amazon too. We have a 2020 and 2021 Hip-Hop Yearbook available on Amazon where we do top 20 verses, albums, underground shit, pictures, photos, bylines, you name it. The artists still control their career to a degree. You know, you kind of have to take control of your shit at the end of the day. Southern artists and producers have done a great job about taking control of their shit. And here's what I mean about Southern artists have done a great job of taking control of their shit. All they really did was observe that all their favorite producers who they looked up to were having issues getting samples clear. And they're like, well, I'm just going to make the beat from scratch then. Mm-hmm. They were listening to Q-Tip and Large Professor and Pete Rock and DJ Premier and RZA. Those are all sample-heavy producers, aren't they? I mean, let's also keep it real. Dr. Dre is a sample-heavy producer early on, too.
Yeah, but you know what a lot of Southern acts start doing? Start making their own beats. I mean, regardless of what y'all think about... regardless of what you think about Soulja Boy, he went out there and made his own beat and made a hit. Went to the internet.
But that's what I mean about how Master P changed all that, because it's like you would turn around and be like, man, how'd they get that album done? It's like, well, ain't no samples on there. So you don't have to clear anything. You don't have to wait. Well, he kind of like owns his own company. He kind of has his own artists. He kind of has his own production team. As a matter of fact, only thing he needs to do is send this over to Priority for distribution when the album is done. It's like, well,
he's got to market it and stuff. But yeah, by the time that you actually have a fan base like that, you just put it out to your base and people are going to eat it up.
I mean, for him, like specifically as it related to his project, all he had to do was go in and make his projects, because by the time he got the deal, he had already had his buzz because of Ice Cream Man. That's what I'm saying. Like for him and then TRU projects, it's like, no, Mike, he could literally just go in there, make those projects and crank them shits out and put his name on it. Like maybe with Mia X and all of them is even with Mystical's Unpredictable, he didn't have to do shit for Mystical's Unpredictable. Mystical had already did Y'all Ain't Ready, and it already like had a single out for Unpredictable. They have to do shit for Unpredictable, but record and drop.
I think Mystical, and we'll talk about this and then we'll move on because I know we got a lot to get to. I think Mystical was like probably the first real free agent signing in hip hop that I could think of. Somebody who already had like a career on their own and then jumped on another team. You know what? I would say Pac first, right? Obviously, Pac the Death Row, right? Because I mean that's hard to say because he was already within a scope, but
it's funny because you want to know what it's like. The black rap label existed in a greater sphere than in reality. It's like, well, Death Row exists, but Death Row is just a subsidiary Interscope. It's like, well, Rockefeller exists, subsidiary of Def Jam. So it's like a lot of these artists.
Well, those really are distribution channels, I would say, because Rockefeller put out music before they got with Def Jam, right? We can't really say the same thing about Death Row.
They put out an album and a single. They put out In My Lifetime Volume 1. They put out Reasonable Doubt. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yep, they had their priority situation. I think they did a payday situation too, I believe.
I mean, I think Def Jam gave them $5 million, correct?
I don't remember.
I feel like it was $5 million, which was good. Which was good at the time. Think about this, getting $5 million at the end of '96. I don't think you understand. They dropped Reasonable Doubt. When is that, June?
Mm-hmm. June 24th.
Got a $5 million deal with Def Jam like in December.
Yeah.
You know, that's not bad work in 6 months. You know what I'm saying? To release an album independently. And I'm not even sure if it was gold when they got that distribution deal or it might have been approaching. I feel like Ain't No Nigga was gold, the single. Yeah, your single was not. Yeah, Al You Mac a Trip with Platinum Artists, buck by buck, but only a single going gold. Yeah, Ain't No Nigga.
Now, you know, we got to give Jay props too, man, for being able to change with the sounds. Because we talk about the sample clearances in New York. Well, obviously he was getting his samples cleared, but even when he didn't, he would get on those Swiss Beats tracks. He would get on, you know, the Rockwilder tracks and make hits out of them.
Well, they bought money to the game too because he was really the first independent guy that like was getting samples cleared without label help or label money.
Right.
Think about it. They were getting samples cleared with their money.
Yep. No, that's real.
That wasn't no Def Jam or no Priority money. That's their money getting samples cleared. Yeah, so when they're taking the Ain't No Nigga shit from, what's the Ain't No Nigga from? It's from
Well, originally, I'm trying to think of the original sample, but the first ones in hip hop to do it was EPMD. But yeah.
Yeah, but it's originally from. But what I'm saying is that they're paying.
It's like a bongo band or something.
Right, but what I'm saying is they're paying the tariff on that. Yeah. Not the label. There is no label.
Right, they are the label.
That was different.
Yeah.
That was